Article 6.
Steve Kelly again, shouldn't we entertain a motion, obviously after this discussion, to just do the same with Articles 6 and 7, to make a motion to put both of them?
I probably ought to read them.
Okay.
Then I'll move them both if you'd like me to.
Okay, I mean, which we've put other articles together before. I mean, but I mean, obviously it's the same sentiment for all three.
Can I do it separately? That's all right, we can do it separately.
I agree with your efforts, Mr. Kelly. Article 6, operating budget for the Opera House / town promotion. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $84,422 for the purpose of Opera House town promotion operations, with $60,870 to come from the Opera House Special Reserve Fund. This special article is a special warrant article per RSA 32:36(D) and RSA 32:75. Estimated tax impact is 0.068 cents per thousand. Recommended by the selectmen 3-0. Recommended by the budget committee 6-0. I would move Article 6 be placed on the ballot.
Second. So, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Is that what you had in mind, Steve? Okay, so I understood Steve's point was, now that we know what the game plan is, let's lump them and vote them. So, what? Okay, so, all right, back up a little bit. Discussion, moved and seconded. Any discussion on Article 6? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Okay, moving on to Article 7.
Article 7, operating budget for parking meter fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $54,510 for the purpose of the parking meter operations, with said sum to come from the parking meter special revenue fund. This special article is a special warrant article per RSA 32:36(D) and RSA 32:75. No tax impact. Recommended by the selectmen 3-0. Recommended by the budget committee 6-0. I move Article 7 be placed on the ballot.
Second. Discussion. We're learning. Discussion, sure.
I just
No,
like to
go
know
ahead.
what the money is going to be used for.
We're talking about the parking meter fund.
Yes.
We have a part-time position, 1 employee. The wages in the proposed budget is $21,551. We have life insurance and disability insurance. It's all on page 35 of 36 of your budget packet. We have Social Security, Medicare, workers' compensation of $500, uniform of $250. We have mileage reimbursement, $1,000. We have lease of a parking lot of $1,000. We have the enhanced downtown parking loan that was taken out quite a few years ago. We're on year 5 of 10. And we have a principal of $19,885, an interest payment of $2,146. We have parking meter tickets of $2,100. Maintenance and postage $250. Maintenance and repair $650. An equipment purchase of $3,250. That's including a radio for the parking enforcement officer. So the total budget is $54,510. The revenues that offset that budget is $54,510. So there's no money coming from the taxpayers for this budget.
Ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Therefore, it's a vote in the affirmative, so Article 7 goes on the ballot as presented here. Article 8.
Article 8, full-time patrol officer, 9 months, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $63,443 for the purpose of increasing the level of patrol officer staffing for the town's police department. The 9-month estimate cost is $63,443 and is inclusive of benefits, equipment, and uniform. The full year is estimated to be $94,621, and if approved, the full cost will be added to the 2019 default and proposed budget. Estimated tax impact, 8.8 cents per thousand, recommended by the selectmen 3-0, recommended by the budget committee 5-1. Make a motion to move the article be placed on the warrant.
Second.
Thank you.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Question, discussion. Ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. So Article 8 goes on the ballot. Article 9.
Article 9, Municipal Records Retention System, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $23,000 for the purpose of purchasing a record retention file system. Once implemented, the system will be utilized by various departments that are required to retain financial and administrative records. Estimated tax impact, 3.2 cents per thousand, recommended by the selectmen 3-0, recommended by the budget committee 7-0. I make a motion to move the article to be placed on the warrant. I'm sorry.
Second.
Second, moved and seconded. Discussion.
Mary Edick. I'm a volunteer in police service. And what my job is now is to file all the reports. And we have a room, and last year, actually, the volunteers in police service bought a shelving unit to go into the room that houses boxes and boxes that go back 20 years or more of these records, and all paper, of course. And we were doing 2017s, putting 2017 boxes back there this year, and the room is full. We have a stack of reports that go back, I don't know how many years, that one of the administrative assistants and I do not even file because the boxes are up on a ladder, and the boxes probably weigh maybe 50 pounds, and we have to take them down, so these things don't even get filed. What this computer program, this record retention system computer program, would do is to put, I don't even know, whether half the reports in that room on a computer. And it would save time in just filing them yearly, but also it would save time if any of that material has to be brought out. We don't have to go in there and find the reports in those boxes. Now they would just go into that system and save time and money. This also would be used, as it says, by all the other departments in the town. Would save room, time, and money. It is worth every cent of the $23,000, and I hope everyone in March votes yes on this one. Thank you.
Ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, so we're moving on to Article 10.
Article 10, full-time highway employee, 4 months. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $17,547 for the purpose of increasing the level of full-time staff in the highway department. The 4-month estimated cost is $17,547 and is inclusive of benefits. The full year inclusive cost is estimated to be $59,068, and if approved, the full cost will be added to the 2019 default and proposed budgets. Estimated tax impact, 5.6 cents per thousand. Recommended by the Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 5-1. I move to put Article 10 on the warrant as written.
Second. Discussion? Those in favor of placing Article 10 on the ballot as presented, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It's an affirmative vote, so we move on to Article 11.
Article 11, Public Works Generator. Okay, there's an amendment to this one also, so I will read it with the amendment in it, and we'll be motioning on the amended article. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $65,252 for the purpose of purchasing and installing a generator at the Public Works Building and the replacement of overhead doors and exterior doors at the fire department. The cost will be offset by a USDA grant in the amount of $31,900. And let me see, and the amended part is and $33,352 from taxation. The estimated tax impact is 0.046 cents per thousand, recommended by the Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. 4-0. They must have had some people absent. I move this amended article be placed on the ballot.
Just a technical question. Probably be cleaner if we did the amendment and then motion as amended. Because everybody was warned this way. Addition, yeah, we understand that. The Department of Revenue says to break it down, but we can't miss if we separate the amendment first and then vote as amended.
Would you read the amended part?
Sure.
It's just to help the fund.
The amendment part is in addition to the end of the article, and it says, and $33,352 from taxation. So I would change my motion to be a motion to approve the amendment to the article. Is there a second?
Okay. Discussion on the amendment. Actually, the two numbers equal the same total. No discussion. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. And now are you ready for the question on the motion as amended? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no? Okay, so the ayes have. So that will be, for the record, that will be separated.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Carol. Article 12, Highway Department 10-wheel truck, parentheses, 5-year lease. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to enter into a 5-year lease agreement in the amount of $170,000 for the purpose of leasing a new 10-wheel truck for the Highway Department, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $33,333 for the first year's payment for that purpose. This lease agreement has an escape clause. The estimated tax impact is 0.046 cents per thousand. It was recommended by the Selectmen 2-1, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-2. I would move Article 12 be placed on the ballot.
Second. Discussion? Yes.
Bruce Hadlock. I think the fact that shouldn't it be lease or lease purchase? I mean, I don't think the word lease doesn't allow you to purchase it when you get done. If it's a lease purchase, you can up and do it at any time.
As in the past, for as long as I can remember, these vehicles have been called leases. They are not true leases by the definition of the word lease. They are called municipal leases. And in popular jargon, they are in fact lease purchases,
So why don't you amend it to read the word lease purchase?
because that's not the way it's done with municipal leases.
Excuse-
Not my decision.
Well,
Not my decision.
Somebody's got to be making the decision. I mean, if we just recommend that you put it in as a lease purchase, then it clarifies it.
Okay, so the Department of Revenue is dictating that.
Okay. The other one that I would like to do on this, I would like to have the payment be made out of the Highway Block Grant Fund, out of the thing on it that they receive, which is RSA 235-2325 on it, as far as being able to have them pay for it. Now, this in turn, if they do it, this is the money that you get from the state of New Hampshire on it, and if they do, it would be no tax impact at all to the town if it was paid for out of those revenues on the thing on it. This is the, I'll make the amendment here.
You're making the amendment? I'll need that in writing, I need a second on it. So do you have a second to that amendment? Okay, there is a second. So we can discuss the amendment. Anybody have a discussion on the amendment? Amendment? So the amendment basically is the source of funds, having to do with the source of funds, right?
Yep. All right, let me just see here real quick. Okay. So you're saying to take the annual payment sum from that? Okay, so let me just do the, I think that's,
I think you can only do it yearly.
no, because we have an escape clause built into the current language. I would just give you a point of clarification. If you were to adopt this amendment, you would be raising and appropriating the same amount to offset what we take out of the revenues for the highway department. So all of the block grant money that currently comes in goes in and offsets the expenses that we already have. So if you take and fund this truck out of there, we're just going to raise and appropriate it for the highway budget.
It doesn't cost the town any, it doesn't cost the taxpayers anything.
It will. It'll cost you that amount.
No, it doesn't.
You're just changing where you're getting it from.
The funds from the highway block grant come into the revenues as part of the general funds, and they offset the highway department expenditures. So if you take $170,000 that's been coming in on a regular basis, which is all factored into the budget that we've given you, and put it on something else, we're going to need to raise $170,000 through taxes to cover that.
You only need to raise the $33,000 if, consequently, it says in here that you can in turn apply and use it for buying equipment on the thing on it, and if you buy it with this equipment, it would have no tax impact on the community.
We would still need to come up with $170,000 to replace the funds that we,
$33,000.
$33,000 comes from taxation to cover this. So we would have to come up, if you're talking just $33,000, we'd have to come up with another $33,000 in taxation for the operating budget, because
You don't have to come up with it, you just gotta cut it by that amount.
if we go with what was approved here, as approved, what to put on the ballot, we would have to come up with those additional revenues to cover the highway department expenditures. And you and I can disagree all day. I'm not going to talk any further on this, Bruce.
So the amendment, the amendment part basically is to be raised from the highway block grant, RSA 235, 23, and 25. So that's the amendment. That's the essence of the amendment. It's the source of funds.
Yeah, this would guarantee that they would be buying the truck and no impact of taxation on anybody as taxpayers at this level.
So Bruce, what we'd need is just a standalone amendment. You've got the motion.
That is the amendment right there.
So let me read the amendment. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to enter into a 5-year lease purchase agreement in the amount of $170,000 for the purpose of lease purchase of a 10-wheeler truck for the highway department, to appropriate the sum of $33,333 to be raised from the highway block grant aid funds, RSA 235:23 and 25. And this lease agreement has no tax impact. So does the second apply to that as read? And the discussion, anybody have any more discussion on this? Basically, it's a new article. It's a replacement article.
Yeah. Steve Kelly, just as a point of clarification, those that anticipated $170,000 in funds has already been allocated in the budget. So if we end up doing this, then we can go back to the budget and amend the proposed budget by raising it by the same amount of money that we're going to take out of it to allocate to this. So really, we're taking it from the left hand to the right hand. There's no savings to be had.
That's correct. And so the actual amount that we would have to raise in additional revenue from taxation would be 0.046 cents. So it would be
You can't do it.
4.5
Mr.
cents.
Sweet made a motion.
So basically what happened, these are all anticipated tax calculations that are based on expenditures, revenues, and valuation. So once the tax rate, hold on, let me finish. Once the tax rate in the fall is set, what we do is we have to report to the Department of Revenue Administration our expenditures and our revenues. And so if our revenues are now cut by this, that additional piece will automatically be established in the tax rate by the Department of Revenue Administration. It won't be in our hands.
So you don't even actually have to amend the budget. It'll just come out as the calculation when the tax rate is set.
Yeah, well, actually, it's a changed, changes the article. The amendment is embedded in it. So all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no? It's good. Okay, okay. It's the one I just read. You want me to read it again? Well, okay, so, well, the person who presented it said he wanted this whole thing to be an amendment.
I want to vote on the amendment.
Well, that's what we're doing. So those in favor say aye? Aye. No? Those opposed, no? No. No. Okay, so the noes have it. So we're back to Article 12. What's your pleasure on that? Any further discussion on that? Yeah, the attorney has, yeah. Okay, so the recommendation would be lease purchase, and is that going to, and that's contrary to what we were hearing earlier, that the terminology was municipal lease, not a lease purchase. It in fact is a lease purchase, but that's not the terminology.
I don't disagree with the chair that a municipal lease is generally thought of as a lease purchase.
Yeah.
But the folks who are voting on this don't necessarily know how that works.
So it's not going to harm, the,
Doesn't change anything.
it doesn't change anything.
I make a motion that we change the language, lease to lease purchase.
Okay, so what would be added, and this would be an amendment to add purchase. Is there a second on that? Second. All right, discussion on the adding that word, purchase. Those in favor of that one, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Now the motion would be the same as printed, only with the word purchase placed with lease/purchase. Yes.
Tom Alt. Someone, I think our attorney just said that a lot of people in the room wouldn't know the difference between a lease and a lease purchase, and I think a lot of people in the room also may not recognize what a 10-wheel truck is. You've been watching 6-wheel dump trucks ride up and down your roads forever. Some other towns have 10-wheel dump trucks, and I'm not for or against going to 10 wheels, but I'm wondering what the philosophy is behind it. Are we replacing 2 6-wheel dump trucks? Are we adding it to the fleet we already have? And what was the thought process behind this?
Joe? Okay.
Good question, Tom. A lot of it, Andrew has on this. What's that?
The first column should say 6-wheel and the second column should say 10-wheel, because it's showing it.
It's right in the top section and wrong in the bottom section.
It's right in the top and wrong on the bottom. Okay, okay, in the second section. Okay, I'm in the first section. Well, I won't. You know it by heart, anyways. A 6-wheel truck is about $155,000 or so to buy now. The ones you see, Tom, on your road, and then a 10-wheel truck is only $15,000 more. So $15,000 is a lot of money. If it was on the ground here, we'd all be grabbing at it. But it's only it hauls twice as much material. The new 10-wheelers have the same or smaller, tighter turning radius as a 6-wheeler. So it hauls twice as much, it turns just as tight or tighter, more useful all the way around. And then when you go to trade this in 7 years from now, hopefully, if that was a cycle, truck replacement cycle, it's worth twice as much as a 6-wheeler on the other end. So it's really a no-brainer. In my eyes, it's a no-brainer. It's a little much more money to buy. You're going to gain all that back on the other end. It's going to cut our overtime down. It's going to increase our productivity, and it's going to make the road safer. How it's going to make it safer? You have 10 wheels with brakes on them instead of 6. It's a heavier truck. It's what Littleton needs. Littleton needs a heavy truck to go up Mans Hill, Mount Eustis, Foster Hill. That's what we need. It's a 500 horsepower engine. It's got twice the power of the other trucks. It's just, there's some things that aren't worth, like the sky is blue and we need this truck, Tom. You know, no, really, it's that much of a no-brainer in my opinion. And it's not just my opinion. We have some arithmetic that backs it up. Some people are nervous about buying that big of a truck. Do we have a driver that can drive it? Yes, we do. We have a few drivers with the right licenses. Do we hire them now already? Yeah, we do. Some of the local contractors that we use charge anywhere between $80 to $95 an hour. We use them now. We use Clough's truck, 10-wheelers. We use Calder from Woodstock's 10-wheeler. We used Dodge in the past. Robbie Wilson, another local guy, we use his 10-wheeler hauling sand. We've spent, I can pull it out of here, but about $15,000 in 10-wheeler rentals this past year, just in supporting our work on Mount Eustis Road, freshening up our sand pile. So you're going to cut all these 10-wheeler expenses we already have. We're going to make the snow plowing crew and the summer crew more efficient. We're going to cut overtime. To talk about you, because you brought the question up, and it's Foster Hill Road where you live. That truck goes all the way out to Foster Hill Road with 6 yards of sand. We're going to send a truck out there with 12 to 14 yards of sand. He's not going to come back, run out of sand, and come back halfway through and reload. It's just such a much more efficient way of doing business. The other side of the other safety component with that sand amount is when a 6-wheel truck goes up Mans Hill, he's spreading his sand, and when he gets to the top, he has to turn around and come back down. even though he's half full. And Billy Sargent plowed that route for a long time, and he can probably attest to that. You can't come down Man's Hill empty. So you're bringing up 6 yards of sand, only putting out 3 or 4, and coming back with, you have to have some weight on to come back down to reload to go back up again. It's really a redundancy that we're trying to get away from. Did I answer the question?
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I just wanted to see if I could push the right button, and I think I did. I also was going to make full disclosure, but you beat me to it, that I do live on the dirt portion of Foster Hill Road. And, you know, we're talking about a piece of the pie of the town budget tonight. All the taxpayers that are here trying to find a way to keep your tax rate where you can. I would encourage everybody, if you think you're going to save $1 tonight, you could save $2 on Wednesday night, because that's the big piece of the pie. And I can tell you last year, there weren't very many people here, and I give the teachers great credit. They come up and they show up for their part of the budget. And 4 votes cost everybody in this room and everybody that's watching TV and everybody that's paying taxes, 4 votes cost us $300,000 going back into the school budget. That would buy 2 of these 10-wheel dump trucks. That would fix Foster Hill Road. That would do a whole lot of things. So I'm a very frugal person by nature, and I believe that all the little things count. But if you don't show up at the table, you're on the menu. Wednesday night, you should be here.
All right. So Article 12, we're back to the Article 12 as printed with the word purchase added to it. Ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, so we're on to Article 13.
I don't know how I got stuck with 13. Article 13, transfer station repair, replacement, equipment, buildings. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $27,000 to replace, fix, purchase, and maintain transfer station equipment, buildings, containers, vehicles, and the purchase of an additional supply of bags, and to authorize the withdrawal of $27,000 from the transfer station special reserve fund created for the above purpose. No tax impact. Recommended by the selectmen 3-0, recommended by the budget committee 6-0. I make a motion to place this on the warrant as written.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor of Article 13 going on the ballot say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. So Article 13 passes. Article 14.
Article 14, Transportation Improvement Fund. To see if the town will vote to collect an additional vehicle registration fee of $5 for the purpose of supporting a municipal transportation improvement fund, which shall be a, can I have that sheet there? Thanks. Sorry about that. Which shall be a capital reserve fund established for the purpose and governed by the provisions of RSA 35. Of the amount collected, 50 cents of each fee paid shall be retained by the town for administrative costs. The remaining amount shall be deposited into the Municipal Transportation Improvement Fund established to allow a community to fund, wholly or in part, improvements to the local or regional transportation system, including roads, bridges, bicycle and pedestrian facilities, parking and intermodal facilities, electric vehicle charging stations, and public transportation. And to further authorize the selectmen to expend from said fund, period. The funds may be used for engineering, right-of-way acquisition, and construction costs of transportation facilities, including electric vehicle charging stations, and for operating and capital costs of public transportation only. The funds may be used as matching funds to state or federal funds allocated for local and regional transportation improvements. Such funds shall not be used to offset any other non-transportation appropriations made by the municipality. The additional fee shall be collected from all vehicles, both passenger and commercial, with the exception of all-terrain vehicles as defined in RSA 215-A:1, 1B, LB, I don't know, and antique motor vehicles for motorcycles as defined in RSA 259:4. 3/5 required, if an SB2 town, that's us. Majority vote required for passage. What the hell does that mean? That's 3/5. 3/5 required for passage, no tax impact. Recommended by selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by budget committee, 6-0. Make a motion to place on the warrant as written.
Okay. Discussion? Clarification on the 3/5. 60%.
60%? Yeah, oh, okay. But why? Yeah.
Saves the trip to the mic though, but yes, I mean, wording, 3/5 majority vote, so it's a super majority vote.
Yeah.
More than the majority vote.
Yeah, right.
It is a 3/5.
That's correct. Thank you for that clarification.
Majority vote part is a typo.
Yes.
Super majority. Well, can we clarify that with a, like a type, or you're saying?
Make a motion to remove majority from the warrant as.
Okay, so we'll call that an amendment. Second? Second. Discussion on that. Removing the word majority. All those in favor of removing it, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? Okay, now we're back to the main motion.
A question came up earlier at the public hearing on this one, and I just wanted to clarify it. The additional fee, the question was, does this fee apply to trailers or mobile homes? And the answer is yes to mobile homes and no to trailers. So it will apply to all vehicles, passenger and commercial. The exception is all-terrain vehicles, antique motor vehicles, and motorcycles do not apply. But that would be, trailers are included as well, but they're not considered a vehicle, so that's why they're not included. The effective date for this is April 1st of this year. We have to, we need to do that amendment, yeah.
I make the motion to add the effective date of April 1st, 2018.
Second to that? Second. Okay, any discussion on the amendment? Okay, yes.
What's the total tax impact if it were just raised by taxation compared to having a separate article?
Oh, well, I think, let's do the date first, Bruce. Any comments on the date? Those in favor of the date change, oh, it's date specific, April 1st, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? Okay, that amendment stands.
Just to speak to it a little bit, you can see there's a lot of activity happening around town. We just finished Safe Routes to School. We have the $1 million Transportation Alternative Program project grant happening. We've got the Amanuset-Saranac that's being accomplished with a lot of grant funds, also with some taxpayer bond money. We also have a parking issue in town. In the future, we're probably going to see a need for some parking projects, and we'd like to be able to go after grants to do that. And we'd like to be able to build up a small pot of money to be able to do some of those things. Also, if we have we're going to have 20, I think we'll have about 21, 22 miles of sidewalk after 2019. We'll also need some funds to help keep those up a little bit extra. But for the most part, we'd like to be able to use this for upcoming projects. This is an estimate based on current registrations, just assuming that registration stayed the same year after year, about where we would be. So I don't know if you have any. You had, yeah, I'm sorry. What was your question, Mr. Hadlock? Well, 5 cents. So annually, it's about 5 cents on the tax rate.
You have 5 cents on your tax rate, other thing on it, but if you appropriated it amongst everybody, all you're doing is, by doing this, is the majority of your people are elderly in the town. There's not younger people. And by passing this, you're adding to the registration fees. If you in turn put it right on the taxation, if you needed the money, number one, it would be very minuscule, and you'd get Walmart, you'd get people outside of town, the landowners, the power companies, everybody would be paying for it as far as that goes, number one. Number two, when you mention the word sidewalks, that's what you have when you have that other article. It's under the state, which they pay you for now. So you're already getting, like you got you got almost $300,000, which includes sidewalks, it includes maintenance of them, and everything else on it. So I just don't think that this is a realistic proposition to get into out of it for anybody. I don't think that this is going to help matters whatsoever on the thing on it, and it's going to impact more of your older people pertaining to the registrations, et cetera.
Just to speak to the some of the thoughts behind doing this. As you know, New Hampshire is not a home rule state. We are all municipalities are political subdivisions of the state. So once in a while, the state will enact some legislation that enables a town to do something. With this statute, they've enabled us to do this extra fee to help offset some of the and plan for some of the expenses that we have coming. There's other areas where, like the block grant money, we use that regularly to offset the work that we already do. In reality, what we'd be trying to do here is really start to look at matching funds for some of the future needs of the town. You know, there's other monies that do come in, for example, the rooms and meals tax, but the state actually breaks the law every year and underfunds that amount. So we have to then raise that additional monies from the people. This is just another way, another tool that we can raise and plan for future projects. So.
Mary Edick. For once, I agree with Bruce. I think this is a very discriminating fee, or if you want to call it a tax, because it's only directed at the people in Littleton who own vehicles. While we have, and that's what, around 7,500 vehicles. But in Littleton, on a daily basis, we have maybe 16,000 cars coming into Littleton. And yet those people, the other 9,000 some, or 8,500, are not participating in paying for this, for those roads and all the other things. So I say, let's tax all the commercial and economic tax real estate, which is 2/3 of our tax base, 2/3. That means that we, who own the vehicles in town, through tax, would only be paying 1/3, which would come down to, I got to a different, he asked how it would affect your taxes. We'd pay probably around, an average household would pay around $7.75 on the tax rate. I took 0.062. As opposed to if you had 2 cars. Most of the households have 2 cars. That'd be $10. While we're having all the commercial and industrial helping pay for these. And then I say it's discriminating because, yes, you're going to use it on the roads, but you're going to use it on sidewalks. People who walk aren't paying for this. Bicycles aren't paying for it.
We could put a toll on the sidewalks if that helped.
There you go. And maybe on bicycles, right? And then on transportation. I just think it's more, I think it's more rational to let everybody participate in paying for this instead of just the 7,500 vehicles.
It sounds like you might be in favor of another broad-based tax that could help.
Oh,
spread.
yeah. Oh, yes, yes. But my question is, why the selectmen? I realize the selectmen have a difficult job of having some money available to them when grants come available. So if you raise the money from taxation, would you not be allowed to use this? I mean, set it aside. You would not be allowed to use this for applying for grants, Because from now, I understand you're gonna have to get rid of all the capital reserve funds. I mean, you could do a capital reserve fund, but from the talk earlier is you're gonna have to get rid of all those. So,
The special revenue funds, we're going to eventually transform those into revolving loan funds if
Well,
the
why-
voters agree to do so.
okay,
So.
could you not create a revolving loan fund created through taxation as opposed to just a fee on each vehicle registration? I'm against this, that's all. Thanks.
There's a lot of things you could do. There's just one creative tool, and if the public wants to do it, they can vote to do it, and if not, we'll find something else. So.
Yes.
Linda McNeil. Mr. Hadlock alluded to the fact that we have a lot of elderly in town. If you have a valuation of $200,000 on your home, 5 cents per $1,000, that's $10. That a lot of elderly, I mean, I have an elderly mother. We're strapped. I would rather pay $10 for our vehicles than have to strap my mom with another $10.
Okay, further discussion? If not, we have done a couple of things here. We've taken out the word majority. We put a date in, April 1st, and that will become part of the completed article for March 13th. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Okay, the ayes have it, so we're moving on to Article 15.
I'm going to read the article, and as soon as we get into the discussion stage, I got to have an amendment to add to that. Article 15, Transfer Station Trash Compactor. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 for the purchase of a new trash compactor. And to authorize the withdrawal of $15,000 from the Transfer Station Special Reserve Fund to offset a part of the cost. Estimated tax impact, 1.4 cents per thousand. Recommended by the Selectmen 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee 6-0. I make a motion that we add as written.
Okay. Discussion? You want to make the amendment now?
Yeah. This is just recommended that we add, simply for clarity's sake, that after the cost, the sentence where it says special reserve fund to offset a part of the cost, we add a sentence, excuse me, I'm getting tired, and the balance of $10,000 to come from taxation, in case you couldn't do the math.
Okay. So that's, total amount's the same as we learned from the other motion, the other article. So adding in the balance of 10,000 to come from taxation. Just clarification, right? All right, so that's moved and seconded. Discussion on that? All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Now the motion as amended. Any discussion on the motion as amended? Ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Okay. Article 16.
Article 16, fire pumper purchase. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $500,000 for the purchase of a fire pumper truck with grant funds in the amount of $475,000 and to authorize the selectmen to withdraw $25,000 from the unassigned fund balance. There's no tax impact. Recommended by the selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-1. I move to place warrant Article 16 on the warrant as written.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, discussion? So all those in favor say aye. Oh, sorry, Stan?
Stan Fillion, just a clarification, would this replace a current fire truck, or would this be in addition to what we have?
It would replace the current pumper. The current pumper is 23 years old. It has a lot of rust and corrosion. It's really not considered to be rehabilitatable, if that's a word. And so it's replacing that particular truck.
And so would that truck be sold?
I would assume there would be a sale, as there are with our police cars.
Okay.
After the
With
fact.
the proceeds going to the town?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, ready for the question? All those in favor of placing Article 16 on the ballot, say aye. And opposed, no. The ayes have it, so number 17.
We have a wording change on the next article. I'll read it, and when we get to that change, I'll let you know. Article 17, transfer of town property and easements. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Littleton Board of Selectmen to transfer land identified as Tax Map 99, Lot 46, to the Littleton Industrial Development Corporation, a nonprofit corporation in the interest of future economic development. The land is a 41.96 acre parcel with a 60-foot right-of-way access to Mount Eustis Road on land owned by the town. This transfer carries no cost to the town, and to authorize the Town of Littleton Board of Selectmen to exchange easements with the Littleton Industrial Development Corporation over the town's parcel of land, Tax Map 99, Lot 17. The Select Board proposes to give LIDC a new right-of-way over Tax Map 99, Lot 17, in exchange for LIDC releasing any claim to the old easement on Tax Map 99, Lot 17. These conveyances carry no cost to the town. This does not require a 3/5 vote. This is an error. I guess we'd call it a scriber's error. We do not require 3/5. We only require a majority vote here. No tax impact recommended by the Selectmen 2-0 with 1 abstention. Recommended by the Budget Committee 5-2. Oh, I'm sorry. I move to place this warrant article on the warrant as written. Thank you. The amendment is just simply to remove the 3/5 ballot vote required.
Okay, we have a second on that? Second. Discussion on that deletion. Those in favor say aye. Opposed, no.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we're open for discussion on Article 17.
I'm sorry. Chad, would you like to come forward and present this?
Chad Stearns, Littleton resident, also secretary of the Littleton Industrial Development Corporation. Littleton and the city of Rochester were paired together for downtown critiquing a few years ago because our downtowns are so similar. Rochester has an economic development department that employs several people. Within the North Country, Berlin has a community development office. What does Littleton have? The Littleton Industrial Development Corporation. For 45 years, LIDC, a volunteer nonprofit board, and Littleton taxpayers have worked together for the benefit of the town, obtaining outside funding for infrastructure improvements, expanding the tax base, and bringing good businesses and jobs to Littleton. Taxpayers have donated the land and matching funds, and LIDC has gone to work. Together, we have created a park that employs 1,500 people and a tax base that pays over $750,000 a year in property taxes. But our job's not over. In the coming years, Littleton taxpayers will be faced with several real threats that threaten our tax rate and sense of community. Several utility companies, such as Eversource, are pressing legislators to form a unified and reduced methodology regarding assessment of their infrastructure. Looking at how much taxable utility infrastructure we have, which this includes more dams, substations, and utility poles, it's estimated that if it passes, our tax rate could go up $5 a thousand. Our local representatives have done a great job fighting HB 324, which is what this is about. But another similar bill is being considered, and between the lawsuits that Eversource files against small communities and their lobbying in Concord, it is only a matter of time before a compromise is made, and it's doubtful that this will end well for the small communities. We also have our own impending infrastructure improvements that need to be addressed. We all know that Lakeway Elementary School is in need of either a complete renovation or replacement. Either way, this could come with a price tag of $20 million. With no school building aid program in sight, a 20-year bond would result in a yearly payment of $1 million in principal, not to mention the interest. We also have a Parks Department recreation building in need of replacement that if, as envisioned at the first two public hearings, could include an indoor pool, gym, locker rooms, offices, etc. This would also carry a large investment cost. It is very exciting to live in Littleton and see all the things we have coming down the line, but they come at a cost, and we need to be prepared to pay for it. Looking at this December's tax bill, it was nice to see a small increase. When we look at why, with the rising budgets, it wasn't because of all the new houses in town. That was a story 15 years ago, but that time is gone and may not come back for quite some time. It wasn't the increase in the value of land or in the value of utilities. Not surprisingly, this increase came from businesses, specifically commercial and industrial properties. If we're going to continue to grow our tax base and grow it significantly, it's going to be in these two areas. We need to do everything in our power to enable this growth. This includes transferring industrial zone land to LIDC so that we can work directly with businesses to bring them to town. Let us work with local, state, and federal agencies to obtain grants, satisfy permits, build infrastructure so we can put another business in the industrial park. Let's work together, as we always have, to bring jobs to town, increase the tax base, and continue to make Littleton one of the greatest towns in the state to live, work, and play. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? Are you ready for the question?
Bruce Hadlock. I was on this industrial board when we built the industrial park out of the thing on it. This specific piece of land out of the thing on it was bought by the town of Littleton from a man by the name of Little. And he bought it to cut the timber off it. And it was owned by the LaFlamme family. The LaFlamme family owned that house that's up in the front. And in the front part of that, there was a complete sand pit on the thing on it. What I can't understand is we keep getting it from the selectmen without what I'd consider doing a very proper job. They should have a geologist telling you what you got. And if you have an amount of sand, to give you an example, I have the bills in here that has been supplied to me from the town as to the amount of sand revenue that you buy every year. And there's two parcels over here, one of them which is across the road from the dump, as well as this one here. And I don't mind giving them right of first refusal, but I would certainly want to be in a position if there was $100,000 or $200,000 or $1 million worth of sand and rock or anything else on it, and it would also possibly level it off for an industrial site later on too. But I don't think that we should be giving everything away without retaining something of what it was originally purchased for. And I just don't believe that the selectmen are doing a proper job for the constituents of the people out of it without putting these things on here on it. Without, they could be, these timber rights on the thing on it. As I said, the amount of land, and a geologist would tell you what's underneath it, whether it's valuable or not pertaining to it on behalf of the town. But that's what it was originally purchased for, the thing on it. And he sold it to Mr. Little sold it to the town for $5,000. Oh no, for $25,000. $5,000 a year out of it is what he did. But it was there because of the fact that the amount of sand, gravel, et cetera, that was there. And this LaFlamme people that lived out there, they had a sand pit, Hero, remember? They had a sand pit that was right there for years out of the thing on it, and that's where they got it from. So I personally don't think that this is a good thing to be doing this year, unless you were to amend something on it and just give them the right of first refusal, that would satisfy me, because the town would still own it, and then you could go in and get your geology report, and then you could come back if you found out there was nothing on it. But consequently, it just doesn't add up that we suddenly giving something away, and they want to use it as a gift to give it to somebody as an incentive. And that's what businesses in turn do, is they try to negotiate to get the best that they can out of it, so they don't have to pay cost out of the thing on it from that part. But I just don't believe in the fact of the way it's being handled out of the thing on it from the point of giving it away. Give them a right of first refusal. That would be fine. And then go through the process of getting a geologist to come in and tell you if you've got a tremendous amount of sand there and or gravel or whatever is on there, and or a rock pit. But it just doesn't add up that you're in a position where they want to give it away without at least doing some acknowledgement and asking. That's what bothers me. Thank you.
Yes, further discussion.
Tom Clardy. Just simply like to say that the land has an assessed value of $89,600, and I'd like that number to be listed in the warrant article so the voters will know that if we choose to do this, that we are giving property that has that value, and let them decide whether they're willing to give that away or not.
Okay, do you want to make that an amendment?
Yes.
Okay, so the assessed value is 89.
The assessed land value, $89,600.
$600.
That's from our tax records.
Okay, so you want to write that up and get it up to me?
Sure.
Okay, it's an amendment while it's being written up. You have it ready.
Simply add that one sentence right there.
That's your amendment, okay. Do we have a second on that amendment? Second, okay. So discussion on the amendment, which would be to insert the assessed value is 89,600. That's moved and seconded. Discussion on the amendment. Just on the amendment. You?
Me?
Okay.
Steve Kelly. Obviously, this whole procedure has been discussed ad nauseum. I think it's been very well vetted. We have an organization with a 40-year history of serving the town of Littleton. If we were to sell that property for $89,000, I think it would save us 13 cents on the tax rate for 1 year. Pales in comparison with the revenue that we gain off that project on an annual basis. I'm not looking to give away $89,000 more than anybody else, but the proven return, the proven record of LIDC makes that a very small consideration. And I can't see handcuffing them in any fashion. You know, this is not somebody new. I appreciate what Bruce says. I mean, those are all good points. I think if gold was discovered on that property in the process of developing it, I think that the town of Littleton would be taken into consideration. I don't think that anybody's going to be looking to take the money and run. They haven't done it for 40 years. I can't see them doing now. It's, you know, it's a bunch of donated time by a bunch of very qualified people who have busy lives, don't need to be doing this, but they do it for the greater good. And I just feel that we need to give them our overall resounding support, the article as written, as is, and let them run with it and just trust that they're going to do the right thing, which they've always done, and I'm sure will continue to do. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, again, Ralph Hodgman is a taxpayer. I'm not in favor of giving this piece of property away to LIDC for it's got a value of $89,000. We're taking a look at a tax rate, and yeah, according to the budget, our tax rate could go down a penny per thousand. But the school tax rate's going up at least a minimum 42 cents per thousand. And according to Steve Kelly, chairman of the Budget Committee, he said in public that the school budget this year could go up 95 cents per thousand if everything comes together the way it is. To give away any property at all for $89,000 value property makes no sense to me when that property could be put on the market and sold and give back some money to the town, okay? And keep our tax rate lower.
Okay, further discussion, yes.
Stan Fillion, Vice President of LIDC. What there are with these pieces of property, though, there's a lot of hidden costs. We've evaluated this piece of property, and with the state now, you have wetlands. So you have to work around those wetlands. There's developmental costs of running the infrastructure in there, the utilities, the roads. So giving this away, I'm hearing we'll give it away, $89,000, if you look at the money that was put into the current industrial park, it's been millions of dollars for the infrastructure that LIDC has gone out and got matching grants from the federal government to develop that land to put those businesses there. This is a model for the state of New Hampshire. We're looked upon in Littleton as having one of the best industrial parks in the state, due to the forethought of people like Paul McGoldrick, 40 years ago. So again, I would ask you to look at the big picture instead of quibbling over $89,000. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but in the realm of things, it really is a small investment for the future of our town. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay, anyone who hasn't spoken once yet? Yes, okay.
I'd just like to, Kim DeLutis, taxpayer. What plans are in the works for bringing a business in, and do we know how much we could get on, in taxes in giving away the 90,000? What would we gain? Is there anything that's been in the works? That's one question. My second question is, how much land does LIDC currently own that isn't being used? And that goes back to the other gentleman who mentioned that perhaps we could wait until the other land has been used first.
Okay, someone in the back have the answer to those questions?
I'm not sure if I got your last question, Kim, but the...
You want to announce your name?
Greg Eastman with LIDC. The theory behind our feeling of saying to a company that could be interested to come into the park in this property is the development costs in this property are very high. It's some of the last land that we have available, therefore it's the most expensive to develop. Infrastructure-wise, road, pipes, water, drainage. For a company, we can't offer a company many benefits to come into Littleton. Littleton is in the state. Nobody can say, well, we'll forgive your taxes for 5 years, or we don't have any incentives. This is really our only incentive. Genfoot was originally looking at this property 3 years ago when this was first in the warrant. And they had actually found another piece of property in Littleton to develop that we didn't own and we didn't know about. And they could actually develop that property cheaper and buying that property than they could developing this property when we gave them the land. And the reason why they still wanted to stay in this property was because they wanted to support the industrial park. We need the jobs. We got to continue to grow our tax base. If we don't, more and more of our tax is going to fall on the residential taxpayer. And my concern is, if we don't keep trying to develop our commercial and industrial tax base, that residential property tax bill is going to get higher and higher and higher, and pretty soon we're not going to be a town where people are going to either want to live in because of taxes or they're not going to be able to afford it. And I'm afraid, and LIDC has been the economic development arm of the town for the last 45 years. never charged a dime. We don't take a salary. It's all volunteers, and that's a first-class industrial park. I would, going back to the amendment of saying, let's put the assessed value on there, I think that's just confusing the voter. And I'm against that. What else did you have, you wanted?
Well, neither question was answered.
Well,
So the first one was, what, do you have any plans for a particular business to come in? And the second question was, how much land do you currently own that is not being used?
we don't have plans, we don't have a company ready to come in right now. So this is for the future. I know the state of New Hampshire is working with 5 or 6 companies in Canada right now who would love to come to Littleton because we're on the interstate system and we have the lowest electric rates in the state, at least. So we're a prime place that people want to come to, but we don't have any inventory for turnkey, for somebody to come in and start operating. And we've lost out business to Berlin because of that. I've tried to talk to contractors to consider putting something up on spec. It's not a popular idea, but if we had inventory, we'd have more business here. And what else?
How much land does LIDC currently own that isn't being used?
Chad's got that.
Regarding the acreage, I do know that what Kim's probably inferring to is the report of the 200 acres that's zoned industrial within Littleton of land that is not currently being used or being developed. I don't have the exact breakout for, there's several different entities that own that land. For instance, Dan Hebert owns a chunk. The town owns, obviously this chunk. There's some private ownership. There's ownership of other businesses. LIDC, the parcels that we do own are very tiny. They're very, they're not developable. There's a piece of land along the interstate, for instance, that runs, it's I think 25 to 50 feet wide. It runs for half a mile, so it's a lot of acreage, but you can't put a business up there. There's land, there's an acre here, an acre there, but there's nothing sizable, nothing that a business is actually going to want to say, hey, I want to put a big business on an acre and a half of land that's awkwardly shaped, that's got so much ledge on it that, it's just not cost effective to put their business there. So I do not have the actual acreage for that LIDC owns. I can tell you that of those 200 acres, this by far is the most developable piece, and quite frankly, one of probably only 2 that could actually probably sustain a building on them of any size.
While he's still there, sure, go ahead and ask the question. Yeah.
I'd like to know if you can get water to it. Most of your industrial places, as far as that goes, have to have a sprinkler system. It's a requirement. The fire chief will back me up on it. It's all based on the size and whatever it is. And I don't think the elevation-wise that you can actually get water going up to that particular spot out of thing on it. And I know you can always put pumps in from the point of that, but it's a gravity system of what we have in here out of the thing on it. And you have to comply, any building that's put up has to comply with the rules and regulations to be able to get insurance rates. The first thing that most of these commercial companies do when they come to a community is to make sure they got flowage rights as far as water is concerned.
Right. Can you answer that question?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I just don't think you can get water up there.
I by no means am an engineer, and my fellow board members on LADC can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember when we were looking at the development potential of 1027 last year, everybody remembers that top of the hill parcel that we do own. It's zoned R2 or rural, I believe. Only the very top of that was going to need pump stations, and the lower elevation lots were not going to need that from what I remember. So that being said, as this is a lower elevation than the top lot of 1027, I would say that would not be an issue, but Tom Considine, if he's still here, would probably be able to speak better on that than I.
Stan Fillion. I also work at the coin company, and I know when we built that building, there's actually a pressure reducing valve by the old Laflamme house because our pressure was, it would have blown everything out. So I believe, as Jad was saying, that there's plenty of pressure for the lower elevations. It's just at the top that you would need that additional pumping station. But,
Yes, of course.
one other thing too, in regard to the building lots, a lot of what we have, the regulations are such that when we put some of the buildings in the park, there's wetlands. There's wetlands in a lot of locations. And what the state requires is us giving up a conservation easement of about 10 acres for about every acre that we have developed. So if you look at all the land that is out there that the park owns, LIDC, a lot of that is in conservation easements and is not developable. We have, I believe, there's only about 3 parcels left, and they are fairly small. So we're looking towards the future. There's no, we've evaluated this land to see what we could put on it, but it's a long process, and as Greg was saying, we lose out because we don't have any ready, available land that has the infrastructure. And it's a chicken and the egg thing. We can't get funding from the federal government if we don't have land in hand in order to be giving that, you know, as an offset to get some of those federal fundings.
Right. So the discussion is, yeah, I was going to say, the intent was to discuss the amendment of placing or change or adding that the assessed value is 89.6. So does anyone have any more comments about the placing that adjustment or that assessed value into the, so that's really what's germane at this point.
Thank you, Tom Clardy. Just, I think in the sake of transparency and openness, that we're talking about so many items that are 23,000 or 15,000, you know, and all these warrants. To have a warrant article that has no, it doesn't have a tax impact. It has an indirect tax impact because we're giving away an asset. We hope to get something back for that asset, but it has value. Okay. I think it's wise, and I disagree with Greg. I think it's wise to let people know what the value of that land is. Okay. I'm not arguing about whether we should do it or not, just let them know and let the voters decide. Thank you.
Just a historical reminder about what's gone on in the industrial park since 1976. There have been 19 parcels that have been transferred. The first 14 went at no cost over the years. The last 5, and I made a count of the vote, between 1997 and 2017, there were 4 parcels plus 1 rezoning. The yes vote, the total yes vote, was 3,948, which made up 76% of the total vote. And so from a historical standpoint, I'm sure people have raised the question in the past, and the question and the numbers that are given here are legitimate numbers to consider. But as we know from our Amazon experience just a few weeks ago, where states were about ready to give away their lease to get this company in here, we're clearly in that market, but not obviously with those kind of numbers. But all states do this, all municipalities do this. There's nothing new about this. And the people that came before us voted 19 times, 14 of which were to give the land for free. So that doesn't answer the question nor address the concern directly, but that's what this town has done in the past. Thank you.
Okay, still on the subject of the assessed value, is that, well, someone who hasn't spoken. No, go ahead, Mary. You haven't spoken on this issue. Come ahead up, Rob.
I have.
He has, yeah, I thought he had.
When this came up before the planning board, I asked how long the town had owned this parcel, and I think it was since the late 60s. So the town has not been getting any benefit from it for many, many years. And it sounds like, oh, gee, you know, we're losing this great asset. But it's sitting there unused, and it could go to good use in the park. So it's really not a tax rate impact. I think that's, I hate to be harsh, but an attempt on the part of the neighbors to block this by making it look like an undesirable deal on the part of the town. And I think that it should go ahead without the assessed value in there. Thank you.
Okay, we're still on the placing the assessed value. Yeah.
All right, let me think what I want to say when I come up here. There is going to be a tax impact on this, okay? And I have a question I want to ask Dan. You said that millions of dollars of matchable funds have been brought into the industrial park. Who paid the matching part?
We have, through the contributions from the town, we've used that. There's been other sources that we've been able to.
Okay, but taxpayers have put into those matching funds.
Land, it's the land. So
They-
we've been able to take that and put it in as a match.
Okay, so taxpayers have never put any money into these matchable funds.
Yes, they have. We ended up putting we ended up building the sewer lines and everything like this. In fact, this is what's called an inverted siphon that goes underneath the
Yeah.
river. Found it from that time.
Okay, hold
That-
it, hold it.
That's about $300,000 at that time to do it.
Okay, that is my other question. When you start developing this land, who's going to build the roads, the water, the power? Who's going to pay for all of that? Is the people buying this property going to pay to put all that up there to the property, or are the taxpayers going to pay it?
The taxpayers will probably contribute as they have, in a partnership with LIDC as in the past. And the people that are buying the land, again, they don't run the infrastructure. They're not looking to put the sewer line or the water line for 8 businesses up there just associated with their one business.
Okay, so there is a tax impact to the taxpayers. So it's going to cost us money in the end.
Okay, so are you, on the assessed value, anybody have any further discussion about placing that into the motion for the people to vote on? Specifically about the assessed value being added?
Yeah, I'm John Scott. I just want the $89,000 beyond the ballot. You know, it should be transparent so the people know what they're voting for. People can vote whatever they want, but they should know what they're voting for.
Okay, thank you. So are you ready for the question on that? Okay. All right, all those in favor of placing the amended words on the ballot, that the assessed value of the land is $89,600, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. Okay, you know, no's louder, but I'm going to ask you to stand. You probably need to stretch anyway. Hold your card up. And we want to count the yeses and the no's. So remain standing if you're in favor. Voting in favor. And wait until your vote gets counted, if you would, please. Hold the card up. Okay, and then I'll need somebody to give me the count here. Okay, you may be seated, and all those opposed, if you would please stand. Okay, you may be seated. Okay, thank you. Okay, yes 17, no 22, so you've defeated the amendment. So now we're back to the main motion. Are you ready for that ready for the vote on that? Further discussion or? Okay.
My name's Alwyn Mitten, and I have a question. What is the current zoning for this property? Is it industrial now, or it is? Okay. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was, keep talking about we need more jobs in Littleton. Most of the jobs in Littleton do not go to Littleton residents. We have an awful lot of people that commute to Littleton to work. We haven't seen an increase in our population in how many years? So I don't think it's fair to bring that topic into Littleton needs more jobs, because there's no proof that that's actually going to go to residents in Littleton, and that's misrepresentation of the job base, basically.
Rudy Jelse. I think that this Article 17, you know, it's kind of, this is my opinion, it's pretty fishy. The only reason is this, because, you know, it was a letter in the newspaper. The fix is in, if anybody that read this letter in the newspaper or has a copy, they can't tell what kind of job our salesmen they've been doing to really try to take every penny they can from the taxpayer without respect for anybody that makes $7 an hour and they're very hard to make ends meet in this town. They're talking about that we need a job. What job is it we need? Why you guys don't you take a walk in Main Street? We got over 15 stores empty. Empty. If it's not true, go take a walk. They say we need a job. This is not the problem about, you know, giving the property to LIDC. The problem is this: how much is going to cost us in the future? Infrastructure. You guys pay $500,000 for Mill Street. $5 million for infrastructure. But you kidding me? It's right on paper. Now, if you're talking about this piece of property, how much money you need? Where do you think people, they get the money? I talk with the taxpayer. I talk with the people that they cry. We got 350 people that they don't pay tax in this town. I'm sorry. They pay $10, $20, $100 a month because they have no money. And you know that's the truth, because I don't stand over here lie. That's the truth. 350 people, they pay $20, $30, $50 a month because they got no money. And now you guys come up with this fix about, you know, this property stuff, how much good is going to do to Littleton. Doesn't going to do any good. It's going to cause chaos. It's going to cause people that live in the town. They live in the town. How much, you know, that's the point. It's a taxation, future. I'm over here. I love up here. But thank you, Lord, you know, I'm okay. But people who work at McDonald's or people who work, you know, Walmart, Walgreens, that they make $7 an hour, and they own a house, how are they supposed to do? That's what you guys got to think about. It's beautiful, you know, LIDC wants to do something so good. But how much is going to cost? You got to think how much it's going to cost in the future. If we got the money to do that, we don't have the money. I tell you right now, Littleton doesn't have the money. They got more poor people in Littleton than not rich people. And I remember one time, my town manager said that Littleton, it's a rich town. It is not. Andrew, you're an intelligent guy. Littleton, it's not a rich town. It is not. People can hardly make ends meet. That's why they don't pay taxes. Thank you.
Tom Alt. A couple of things. I've walked over this property several times with different committees and commissions, officers of the town. I've spent my life in and around the woods, so I think I know what I look at when I look at a piece of ground. This ground is a challenge, as I've stated before, as far as development goes, but I know what a developer can do with enough equipment and enough money and the right engineers to work them through the loopholes of state wetlands regulations and so forth. What it comes down to is that this is kind of the tail end piece that started up by the old dump pretty much and worked its way down through Slim Tilton's gravel pits years and years ago. And it's like you pick the easiest parts to plant your garden in to begin with, but sooner or later you come up to the stumpy ground and the rocky ground. And this is where they're at. And Stan's right, in recent years, a lot of the development in the industrial park has not been the best kind of ground, and it has impacted wetlands. And when you do that in this state, the developers are required to mitigate the wetlands that they impact. And so a lot of these pieces of land that may show as LIDC land still are not available for development anymore. Do you want to develop anymore, or do you not want to develop anymore? Because LIDC obviously has a very successful track record. We've got a lot of good jobs in this town, whether they are a job that a Littleton resident or a St. Johnsbury resident or someone else has. It's raised the standard of living for a whole lot of people in the area, so they don't have to work at McDonald's, for instance. So that's what the question comes down to, whether it's worth $89,000 or $8,900. If this was private land, someone could put this in current use, and the valuation would be $2,000, not $89,000. It's going to cost a tremendous amount of money if it does become land available for development. And so if you were going to build a house on a piece of swampland, you wouldn't want to pay too much money for the land because it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to put your building on it and to make it habitable. So you can jump around a lot of these issues, but if you want LIDC to continue to be able to do the kind of work it's done, and I'm a conservationist, if anybody in this room is, I believe in keeping open space and so forth, but this is the last piece of the puzzle in that area where they already have laid out all kinds of infrastructure. They've got all the roads in place, all the pipes are in place, everything's in place, and you plug on to the end of it. If you don't do that, you got to find some other place in town, if you can, and start all over with brand new infrastructure. So to stay in a zone of facts and try to stay away from emotion, which is very difficult to do unless you are Mr. Spock from Star Trek, then I think that's what we're looking at.
That's what, okay. So, Rudy? Well,
Rudy Gelsey, I just want to encourage anybody that comes to vote in March 13, please vote no on Article 17, because eventually you're going to pay the consequences. Please, vote no on Article 17. Thank you.
so are we ready for the question? Okay, then the amendment was defeated, so now we're back to the main motion as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. Okay, the ayes have it, so Article 17 will go on the ballot as printed here.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
point of order. I would like you to caution the audience to remain silent while there's a vote going on. It can be intimidating. It just happened on this floor, and I hope it doesn't happen again.
Okay, thank you for the reminder. Yeah.
If I can, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to not reconsider Article 17.
Second, discussion on that.
What does that mean?
Well, what it means is that we were advised early that if we want not to bring it back up again, then it has to, the motion has to come after the discussion.
Didn't that pass when you put it in the original?
No. No, well, we were advised that if you're going to do that, you do it later at the end of a particular motion. Right. So, yeah, move and second, right? All right. So all those in favor of not bringing this back up again, not reconsidering it, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? The ayes have it then. So that's a separate motion. Okay, Article 18.
Article 18, Opera House Building Maintenance. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of repairs and improvements in the building. Estimated tax impact, 1.4 cents per thousand, recommended by the selectmen 3-0, recommended by the budget committee 4-1. Make a motion that the article be on the ballot as written.
Second. Discussion?
Ron Bolt again. This sounds like a blank check. Somebody identify how this money will be spent?
The Opera House has many various repair needs. Some of them are the HVAC unit that's been looked at recently. We're hoping to improve some of the furnace parts to operate better and more efficiently, so we have less breakdowns. We also need to do some additional renovations on the floor that is next to the tower room. We've had some warrant article to do some improvements and energy efficient improvements, but in order to really rent that, we need to do additional renovations. So the warrant article says for the purpose of repair and improvements in the building, and those are some of the areas that we hope to approach. By making it specific in the warrant article, you're limiting yourself. So if, example, something happened during the next year that was an emergency, we could not use these funds to do that emergency if we list them individually in this warrant article. We're trying to do a little bit each year rather than bringing forward a very large warrant article to improve the whole Union Street level, which hasn't been touched. So we're doing a little bit at a time, and hopefully when we get closer to that point, the improvements and the renovations that need to be done on the Union Street level will be, Cottage Street. Sorry. The Cottage Street level will be a lot less when we come here. So you have a 150-year plus building. So when you have that type of building, you're going to have some repair money.
Okay. Further discussion? Yes, okay.
My name is Sue Pilot, and I'm the Opera House manager. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this portion, which is the Article 18. If we do get the money, improve the third floor storage area, which I think was used to be the judge's chamber, We have hopes of renting that space, maybe 2 office suites, where we will additionally have more income coming into the Opera House. So I just want to point that out to people, that the Opera House is very busy, been busy, and we hope to continue to bring money into the town and relieve the taxpayers' burdens. So this is one way we hope to do that.
Okay, thank you. You ready for the question? Those in favor of placing Article 18 on the ballot as presented, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. Okay, the ayes have it. Article 19.
Article 19, Keno Games. I'm an odd way to write this. Shall we allow the operation of Keno Games within the town of Littleton? No tax impact, recommended by the selectmen 3-0, recommended by the budget committee 5-0. Make a motion that we include it on the warrant as written.
Second, discussion? Yes.
At the risk of overstaying my welcome, can somebody state categorically what the situation is with the revenue coming from the Keno Fund? If the town votes for this, what does it mean? Does it mean that we're just going to have machines in this town? It does not affect the amount of money that the town school will get back from Keno? Somebody could just give a definitive answer on that.
Shared equally. So from what I understand, we had to put this on the ballot in order to be eligible for kindergarten funds, correct? No? I thought the NHMA article said that. Actually, do you want to speak to this? Because it's been a little confusing for me. Yeah.
My understanding of the way this works is that the legislature adopted this and allowed, of course, every town and municipality to decide for themselves whether they wanted Keno. The objective being any money that the state brings in from Keno will go to education. And the education money the state has gets proportioned out to the towns based on whatever formula they use. It doesn't matter whether you pass this or not. You will share in the proceeds regardless. So it doesn't affect the town's participation in that. That's about all I know.
I think you're not 100% right.
Okay. What do you think?
What I gather out of the thing on it, and I don't even know what Keno is from that.
Go to the mic.
I got told,
Go to the mic.
Yeah. I don't really know what Keno is as a person, but what I got told, I called down there when I first found out about this thing because I talked with an attorney. She's no longer there, she's now a judge. Consequently, what I got told was that if you have it in your town, or any towns, and you go beyond the, I think it's $1,100, am I right? $1,100 per student, I think it is. The more towns that have it, the more revenue that it brings in. You have a potential for getting additional amounts of money on it that not necessarily goes back to the specific town. It goes into the fund, and they would increase it from $1,100 per student. And Littleton has 72 kids in the kindergarten. One of the key was you had to have, I think they told me that you had to have kindergarten that was there for, on the basis of half a day and a full day. That was one of the requirements that they had to have. But consequently, the more towns that do it, and I know the state's been putting a lot of pressure on to get all towns to put it on the ballots so that if in fact they generate more money, the funds in turn can go up from $1,100 per student to a potential of more money. That's the only extra thing.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. I think we're talking about two different things. The question that I understood I was responding to was whether or not Littleton's participation as a recipient of funds is affected by whether or not Littleton adopts this.
No,
I don't believe.
I think we still get, we get the funds.
We get it anyway.
We get the funds on the
I
basis
mean,
of it.
it's
It's only the state that puts the pressure on everybody to try to enhance it from that.
I mean, obviously, the more people that gamble, the more money that comes in, the more the towns will get.
Does this just need a simple majority?
I would assume, right? Simple majority. As far as we know, yes. So are you ready for the question? Those in favor of Article 19, I'm sorry, say aye. Opposed, no. I would say the ayes have it. Article 20.
Article 20, Amendment to Dog Ordinance Municipal Athletic Fields. To see if the town will adopt a revised dog regulation ordinance which merges pre-existing regulations into one chapter, brings the ordinance into conformance with new statutory changes, adds penalties for failure to remove feces, and prohibits dogs on municipal athletic fields. There's no tax impact here. Recommended by the Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 5-0. I move to place the article on the warrant as written.
All right, moved and seconded. Discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor of Article 20, say aye. Opposed, no. Okay, the ayes have it. Article 21.
Article 21, amendment to hawkers and peddlers license. Are you in favor of requiring any person who goes from door to door, place to place within a town or town to town who sells, offers to sell, or takes orders for merchandise or offers to perform personal services for household repairs or improvements to submit to federal and state record checks at the applicant's expense? There's no tax impact. It was recommended by the Selectmen 3-0. It was recommended by the Budget Committee 6-0. I move that we put Article 21 on the ballot.
Okay. Discussion? Yes, okay.
Paul Smith has
Okay.
detail
Paul.
on this.
Mary Menzie, just a quick question. Do these people have to have licenses now?
No, we have a question, answer for you.
Yep.
So, Chief Smith, so the answer is yes, but the people that go door to door don't have a criminal record check, so they could be convicted felons. And
Right, no, I was just getting a clarification that they have to have a license now and we'd be adding a criminal record check to that. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Further discussion? Yes, yeah.
Dan Brodeen, does this hawkers and peddlers include panhandlers too?
Further questions? Or comments, yes.
Stan Fillion, does this cover Girl Scouts?
No, it doesn't. So
Can you clear? Yeah.
Ordinance, excuse me, it does not. So the ordinance is written, and hawkers and peddlers, people who have nonprofit organizations, farmers, people who make their own products, aren't subject to hawkers and peddlers requirements, so they can go door to door in the whole 9 yards. This is for people who are selling goods that are manufactured or from outside the state. Itinerant vendors. They have to have a state hawkers and peddlers license, and then they have to get a town hawkers and peddlers license. All we're asking them to do is for the state passed a law that says that we can do a criminal record check on these individuals, and we want it to be at their expense. No, it's 40, I can look it up. I can get you an answer if you want. I think it's like $46.
40 or $50 a piece.
Yeah, it is. But it's well worth it if you want, to know whether or not the person's a convicted felon and they're in your neighborhood and they're selling products. We would want to know that too. So I can deny that license.
You ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 21, say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Article 22.
Article 22, Planning Board Master Plan Update. To see if the town will vote to appropriate up to the sum of $32,000 to update the master plan as required by RSA 674. The duty of the planning board includes preparing and amending the master plan with said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance and to apply for any available grants for this purpose. There's no tax impact. Recommended by the Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 6-0. I move that we place this article on the warrant.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion? Then are you ready for the question? Those wishing to have Article 22 placed on the ballot, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Okay, the ayes have it. Here's the deal. We had a motion to postpone, basically, or adjourn this segment at 10, unless we were in the middle of a motion. So based on that, we will reconvene tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. What's that?
I'd like to move that any of the articles that we have covered may not be revisited.
That's appropriate. Okay. Discussion on that? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Okay. See you tomorrow night.